I am Joe Mazzone, and I'm going to kind of be leading you through tonight to do a little introduction to coding rooms. So I'm going to assume a number of you coding rooms may be new, or you're looking just how to get started. And that's exactly what I'm going to go over, some of the basics and what coding rooms has to offer. We'll also provide you with some time for Q&A. So if you have any questions, hold on to them, or as we're going through things, please write them down. However, I'm very much comfortable with this being a very open session. So at any point in time you have a question or you want me to go back and show you something, please do not worry about interrupting me at all. We can do that at any point. And then make sure you stay till the end too, because we're gonna have a little sneak peek of the new version of coding rooms that the engineering team has been working hard on. It's very exciting. And I think you'll enjoy it, and hopefully you'll be able to experience it at one point this school year if you'd like to. I do have with me one of my partners working with coding rooms, Svetlana. So Svetlana, you may want to introduce yourself.
Good morning, one and all. We're really happy to see you here. Hoping to see lots of more of you in the coming months. We're going to be talking about how to use coding rooms to teach just about everything you have to.
Excellent. So if you did navigate to codingrooms.com and you clicked to log in or sign up, you'll notice that there are many different options. Users can, so you can have your students just create a coding rooms account with their email and creating a password. However, most people do like to use the single sign-on options. Google, with many Google schools being around, is a very popular one, which is also the option I use. So you can just say continue with Google and your students can sign in with their school issued Google account, as well as there's GitHub, Bitbucket, Microsoft accounts, as well as institutional Microsoft accounts. So if your school's a Microsoft school, that is also an option. And it looks like Tufts has their own option here. I'm going to sign in with Google, but again, just wanted you to know that your students have those options to easily sign in. Great to hear that, Michelle, also in the comments. Hopefully I can show you a couple extra tricks that you can try out soon. Once you do log into coding rooms, you're given the coding rooms dashboard. And here at the coding rooms dashboard is where, if you log in, well, your courses will show up. And if a student logs in, all the courses they're enrolled in will show up there. If this is your first time, most likely what you're going to want to do is visit this plus sign up in the top right corner of coding rooms. So again, the top right hand corner, you can click this little plus sign. And this is where we can create any new content we want. There are mainly three areas to coding rooms. There is courses, in which you can create a course, enroll students, and then deliver assignments to them, coding assignments to them. There are live classrooms where you're giving a live real-time environment where you and your students each have their own coding environment to do a live lesson, as well as there's an area that the students can follow along with you and see you in real time typing in a coding environment. So that's the live classroom. And then Workspaces is just if a student or yourself want to just create a coding rooms workspace, an area to create a coding project, you can just do that at any point in time, and it doesn't have to be tied to an assignment or a live classroom. So you can just create a workspace just for anything. Share it with people just like a Google Doc and anything you'd like to do there. So then these three areas are really the important elements to think about with coding rooms. And once you can wrap your head around kind of what these three things can be used for or how you'd like to use them in your classroom, coding rooms as a platform becomes a lot easier to use. Again, you can create a course, enroll students in that course, and assign assignments to them that you create. Then you have live classroom, which is this kind of real-time area where you and your students can interact with different coding workspaces, as well as they can follow along with you in real time in a presentation area. They can see you run the code. They can see any GUIs that are created by your code, all those things, as well as you can look at every single student's workspace and follow along as they're working on things. And then if you just want to create a coding project, or your students want to create a coding project on their own that's not tied to an assignment or a live classroom, they can go to Workspaces and they can just create one there. What's cool in Workspaces is you can even share like a Google Doc and have multiple people collaborate and work on those workspaces. So they are still real-time and collaborative, which is really awesome. Any questions about these three areas in general before we dig deep into them? I'm going to start off with courses first. Just how to create a course, what that looks like, things like that. All right, so then again, if this is your first time in coding rooms, you don't have a course, then you're going to want to, again, in that top right-hand corner where you see that plus sign that I was showing off, click New Course. You have three options right now. Once you kind of click that New Course button, you can start off with an empty template, which is what I'm going to do. You can use one of the two templates we have here. This is just some free content that Coding Rooms is providing to you. One has to do with AP Computer Science A exercises, just some exercises for students' assignments, pre-created that you can use, and they go along with the AP Computer Science A curriculum, as well as some introductory Python assignments that you can bring into your course and use, again, with curriculum if you teach a Python course. You can actually create a template with these later and then import them into your main course if you want. So don't think you have to start off with one of these first. You can simply just kind of select the ones you want if you create a course with these assignments and then move them over into your main course if you need to. When you go over and create a course, there is some information you need to provide. A course title, for instance. If you have some other name that you'd like to go along with this, some kind of headline, you can provide that there. I'm just going to leave that blank because it is optional. The default language for the course. As you can see, Coding Rooms has a number of programming languages and different environments available for you to use. Your course can use multiple different languages for assignments. However, every time you create an assignment, it will use this default language for you. In most courses, I think what the Coding Rooms team has seen, usually they use one language throughout the course. And then, of course, if the programming language has different versions, you may need to select something like that. So check out those options there. And then if you have different sections of the course, so you have different groups of students that are going to use the course content, you don't need to recreate or copy and paste the different assignments in. It does have, as part of the kind of learning management here, different sections that you can add. So I can add multiple sections of the course. So I can have like period 1's students, period 5, let's say I have the same class meet, in period 6 or something like that. I can have those different sections for those periods. As you can see, if I go to the roster, each of my different periods will have a different roster. So then I can manage each of those classes, those sections independently when I go to grade them. And if I click this little invite button, each of those periods will have their own invite code that you can send so that they can enroll. You simply, when you select to invite, give the students this URL, or you can give them this join link. It's also right here. And they will be enrolled and you'll see them on the roster for that course. The main thing with courses is, of course, the assignments. When you go to create an assignment, you got to give it a title. And there are some different areas to designing your assignments. You can give your students a prompt, or in this area here in the overview section, This is the instructions for the assignment. I'll show you how that shows up on a Coding Rooms assignment. I think it's really nice. So I will just instruct the students to use the print function to display hello world in the console. It does have some different editing, so you can add bullets, and you notice I did a little code highlight here. So you can do that, as well as you can do blocks of code. So it has some formatting that you can have. You can insert pictures into the prompt, a number of different things. Then if I go over the template area, this is the code workspace that your students will start off with. For instance, a default Python workspace starts off with this print hello world, this is Python statement. If I don't want students to have that, let's say I want them to just start off with a blank Python file, I can simply erase this, delete it, save changes, and now the template will show up like this. Or sometimes what I like to do is add in some comments just to give my students a hint on what they should be doing. So they'll have the prompt, but also in the code there'll be something. So I can say print hello world below. Something like that. Save changes. And now if I want to assign this assignment to students, I can just go over to assign. And I can select of my 3 sections that I created, which ones I want to publish it to, the date I want it to release to them, and the due date. What I like about Coding Rooms also is it lets me set due dates for each of the sections separately. So I don't have to say one due date for all the sections. Each class I can have a different due date. I can have a different time because it's not only of the date, but it's also the time. So I can set a specific date and time for each section separately. You can also prevent a late submission. So you can have a closing date on the assignment if you don't want students to be able to submit past a certain day and time. That's really good for assessments. Let's say you want them to complete in a particular day, like a summative assessment. I like to use this for where they're supposed to complete it in class that day. Now, you can always click on the student preview to preview what the students will see. So I'm going to do that now to kind of show you. What I also like to do is if you're using another learning management system, let's say Canvas or Google Classroom, and you want your students to be able to access this assignment quickly, I always just right-click on the student preview and copy the link. Or if you click on it and you copy the link that shows up, that's a really quick link for the students to be able to get to the assignment. It will direct them directly to the assignment for their class. Just note that each section will have their own unique URL. But the URL for every student will be the same for that particular assignment. Each section will just have its own URL to their published version. I clicked on that student preview now. And again, I recommend that you do this every time you create an assignment just to make sure it looks the way you want and behaves the way you want. And it says it gives them the overview, and then they can open the assignment workspace to work on. Over on the left-hand side, it gives them the prompt, the instructions, whatever you wrote for the students, and then it gives them the coding environment to actually complete their code. Notice the template as I provided it is what's given to the students when they first open the workspace. They can run the code, and obviously nothing will happen here, and test their output and do whatever they need to do right in this coding environment. If you're not familiar, Coding Rooms also has the desktop. So if you have any assignments that have graphics, the students can access the desktop for the virtual machine that they're running and be able to see all those graphics and GUIs and whatever else. So Coding Rooms is truly a full kind of developing environment, just like if you had desktop computers in your classroom, only in the cloud, accessible on Chromebooks, iPads, anything else. So really no limitations there. I haven't been limited by it. You can even—
Hey, Joe, can I ask a question about assignments? I put the lab that they just did in an assignment, but then they couldn't share it. Can they share from assignments? And I'm just not aware. They went ahead and copy and pasted to a workspace.
Yep.
Um,
They cannot share assignments.
Okay.
There's a lockdown feature to prevent students from sharing assignments with each other, their code. The coding workspace is locked down to just that assignment. If you, the teacher, want to review it, actually, I'm kind of in the greater view because I'm a teacher right now, but I'll go back and leave that workspace. You can go to when you're on the assignment. So here's the overview for the assignment. Here's why I assigned it. Here's where I edited the template. All the way to the right, there's a tab called Gradebook. All the students that are in this class, they would show up here. And you can click on any student to see their submission and assign them a grade. Because this student didn't submit yet, I can't assign them a grade. However, if you ever have a student that forgets to submit, you can always submit it for them when you view their submission so that you can assign them a grade. The other thing we're going to look at next is kind of the auto grader, which I'll just give a very brief look at. Because I didn't set up any grading, it just prompts the student that, hey, your teacher is going to manually grade this for you. And since I am the teacher, I can put in a score. And when I go back to the gradebook, the score I entered should show up for the student, 100%. Submit. So you can always click on a student submission and grade right there. So they shouldn't have to share it with you. However, if you did want students to collaborate, let's say it was a group project, Workspaces may be best because they can share between them, or a live classroom where you can have multiple students. I can talk to people individually about kind of group work for now. The new version of Coding Rooms will handle that much better. Did I answer your question, Michelle?
Yeah, thanks. That's good. That's what I figured.
Now, you can also set up auto grading with the test bench, or you can set up for grading multiple kind of individual items that you want to check out. So if we go over and we add a test case, you can kind of name this test case, correct output, and we can start to do an input-output comparison. As well as you can do unit testing, which I'll provide my website for anyone to check out if they want to check out more about unit testing. We have some great YouTube videos about some of that stuff, as well as look forward to kind of more webinars that we can dig deeper into unit testing. And you can also add manual grading things. For instance, maybe something that the computer can't check, but you want to go in and check, like good variable names. You could add something like good variable names, and that's not typing. Variable names as an item, and then you have to go in and manually award points to the students for that item. And you can identify how many points you want each thing to be worth. It'll automatically give a percentage based on it. Now for the input-output comparison, that's the easiest way to get started with auto grading. Simply what you're doing is you're just providing what the student's output should be. So if we run the student's code, what should their output be? If you expect the student to ask the user for certain inputs, you can provide those also on a new line for each of those inputs. And you can essentially run the student's code, give it inputs, check what the output is. So for instance, here, I wanted the student to say, hello, world, with an exclamation point. We can do a flexible equality where it doesn't care if they use uppercase versus lowercase. We can check to make sure to equal, it's an exact match. So what I typed in, character for character, spaces, exclamation points, everything matches exactly. You can do it contains the value that I provided at least once somewhere in their output. And then you can also create some regular expressions of your own if you'd like to evaluate that. And I'm not an expert at doing that either, but it is a possibility for those power users. Now, what you can do when you create these auto gradings is you can run the tests against the template you've provided to the students. And you can also run it against the model solution. The model solution is supposed to be a space for you to kind of put a solution. The students will never see this model solution. It's just for you, the teacher, if you want to store an example of what a good solution is for the assignment, you can store it there, as well as any auto grading you create. You can kind of like, hopefully your auto grading grades your solution 100% correct. So you can test it there. Right now, I don't have anything other than the template in the model solution. So if I run it, it's just going to say, I'm wrong. No output, expected hello world. Let's go into the model solution quick. So you just say create model solution. It will give you the template you provide the students with, but then of course you can go and you can edit it. So I can just say print world, save the changes. Now, if I go back to the test bench, I can run the test against the model solution, and I can see how the auto grading will be for the students. And the students will see the auto grader in this very same way, where it will show them what happened. So this is a match. Good. It's happy about that. Gave me points for that. Good variable names. This test cannot be auto graded. Your instructor will conduct a manual review. So if you say manual review, that's how the students will be prompted for that. And you have to go in and provide them with points. So it's a really good way of, I like to see the auto grading as a way for you to also provide feedback to the students so that they're not frustrated and waiting for you to necessarily know if they did something right, but it's a way for the system to kind of check for them and they can say, okay, I am on the right track. I'm doing this correctly. One of the important parts about that is as you set up these tests, you may want to give your students some good feedback when the test does fail. So when they didn't do something right. For instance, maybe I over here want them to print hello world character for character exactly the same. I may want to prompt the student and say, make sure you check your output and that character for character, it matches hello world and I provide it with them again, or something like that, because that would be a common mistake with just a simple print statement like this. So you can provide them with that type of feedback there. And when they do fail, the test case, it will provide them with that feedback. So any helpful hints you want to give the students, you want to type it here on the feedback on test failure. Any other questions about assignments? So then the next area we can look at is the live classroom, which is really exciting because many different platforms have that kind of assignments feature where you can assign, coding work, but no other platform has a live classroom quite like this. When I go over to the plus sign, I can create a new live classroom. I can give it a name. I like to do this for so I'll name them like lesson something, because it's usually like the lesson, because this is how we do the live coding demo where you're walking through some content in theory here with the students live. That's what this is really great for. So we can call it like lesson 1, printing, or let's call it output basics. Output basics. Of course, we can select our language, just like we did when we were setting up our course. A live classroom does not have to be tied to a course, which I really like because sometimes I do coding workshops or like what I'm doing with you all right now. And I don't have to tie it to one of my courses. You don't have to be enrolled in one of my courses. So that's why I'm allowed to select the language here. However, if you only want students enrolled in your live classroom to be and able to join this live classroom, enrolled in your course to join this live classroom, you can select a specific course, and only the students in that course can join this live classroom if you select that particular section of a course. I'm gonna leave it open because I'm gonna let you all join that live classroom. There's also video and audio, just like the Zoom call that we're doing right now. And so you can have that, and you don't need Zoom or Google Meets or anything like that. I'm going to actually turn that off for this call. I usually have that on even if I'm remote with my students, because I like to share slides and other information, documentation with my students through the video conferencing. So I don't use it usually for the video aspect or the audio aspect. I do use it for the screen share so they can have that window right in the area. And then the streamlined code presentation, you can turn on and off. I'm actually going to turn this off, and I'll explain when we launch into this live classroom in a minute what that toggle did. That's the main one you want to kind of keep an eye out on. Now, here are some of your different settings. This is the URL I need to provide in order for people to join this live classroom. You can click on that and you can join either signing in with your Coding Rooms account, or you can join anonymously if you choose not to sign in. So note that if your school, you want to use Coding Rooms, but your school doesn't allow for students to create other accounts, or the IT department's really locked down, you could still use the live classroom feature because students do not need to log into an account to use the live classroom. If you click on that link, you won't be able to join just yet because I haven't opened up the live classroom. You can edit the template if you want to provide students with some code. So if you have a certain lesson prepared and you want to start them off with some code, you can open the template. Svetlana is laughing because it was discovered today that you can't edit this template after you launch the live classroom, which is an important detail to know. So once you launch the live classroom, that's it, because it creates the workspaces for all the students. I'm going to click Start, and you all should be able to enter the live classroom now. If you did click on that link, it's still over in the chat. What's great is I can start to see who did click on the link, because over on the left inside of my live classroom as the teacher, I can see all the people joining. So this is really great. This is the student activity monitor over here, and we can see the activity of all the students joining. So I can see the activity of each of you. I can see when you were last active, so you all just joined, so you're pretty active recently. Now, the important thing I want to point out, and we have some really great videos that dig deep into the live classroom. I'm not going to be able to dig deep. There's so many great features here. But just to give you the general overview, what you can do here is we have, again, the student activity monitor. We can see which students are online when they've been active. We have this presentation area, which is open on your screen right now. Because I have streamlined code presentation turned off, we can all edit here. So if you go over, you can type here. You can see me typing, and I can see each of you typing. So if you ever need to do a really collaborative lesson, you can do that here. Now, Michelle brought up some things about collaborating. I actually use the live classroom for group projects. I'll create a live classroom for each of the groups, give them a link to only those group members, and then they can use the streamlined code presentation to edit collaboratively. Michelle, I don't know if you've used it that way yet. Or you were just
No, I have. They've only used Workspaces because I don't know how to do anything else.
That's fine. So I love this space because not only do we have this collaborative kind of coding area right here, you can also lock that down. If you turn on streamlined code presentation, it's just for the students to follow along with what you're typing. So let's say it's a lesson you just want them to follow along, or you have that, annoying kid that you're just not going to do this kind of collaborative stuff with because they just continue to erase your code or something like that. You can turn it off. But what's great about the live classroom is you can go up to My Workspace also. You should be able to click on that, and you have an independent area where only you can type, and that's your individual workspace. Why I like this for group work is what I talk to the students about is I say, we have this presentation area that your final product is going to be in. What I want each of you to be able to do is independently test smaller pieces of that program in your own workspace to then bring it over into that main program. So everybody can still be working. They have their own space to kind of test things and run code, as well as they have the main area for the bigger project in which they're kind of all being able to type into, all be able to run and see the output of, etc. So this is the ultimate place to collaborate, a live classroom. Now you as a teacher, my suggestion is you use this presentation area to show demo code. You can run the code. You can see when there's errors. So for instance, I clicked run on my computer. You all can look at the console and see where there was an error. And that error was fixed. I can click run and run the code again, or someone else click run for me, and we can all see it. Run. Perfect. Someone else clicked it. I didn't. And we can all see it run. So that collaborative area, everyone can see it. So as you're demoing code to the students, they can follow along in the split screen too, which my students really liked. Usually they're switching between tabs or something like that, students. Instead, all on one screen in one browser tab, they can see what you're typing and what they're typing, and they can run their code as well as watch your code run all at the same time, one window. Now, the really great thing about this also is usually when you were remote maybe, and you were all online, student had an issue with their code. Mr., Miss, my code's not working. What a headache it was to kind of figure out, have them screen share or do this, and how much class time it ate up. Even in the live classroom, when you're actually there in person with students, it's always you're in the middle of doing a demo, and this student's raising their hand, my code's not working, you're gonna run over to their computer, look over their shoulder, figure it out, all that stuff. Now with coding rooms, you don't have to do all that. Any of the students over here, you can click and open up their workspace and check out their code, as well as interact with their code in real time. So its teacher can see other students' workspaces. You, the students, can't see each other's workspaces, only the teacher can see it. For instance, what I really like is Raymond over here, for instance, has an error. There's a recent error. So this little red dot means that there's a recent error in that student's workspace. I can just simply click on this button and open up that workspace. I can see that whatever the error was that Raymond had, it's resolved. We got some great working code here. I can comment on the student's workspace by highlighting the code, right-clicking and adding a comment. I can click add comment, and now the student can hover over that highlighted area and they can see the comment and when I left that comment there. And thank you, Raymond, for providing me with a really great kind of example to go to. Notice that Raymond and I are both on this file right now, so it shows that stuff. As well as if I wanted to investigate what was going on here, I wonder what Raymond's error was. I can always, and this works in any workspace, I can go to the playback history. This is a paid feature of Coding Rooms, the playback history. I think you're only able to see like 3 or 5 steps if you're on the free version. But you can go to the playback history and I can play back in time exactly keystroke for keystroke what was typed in a workspace. I call this the anti-cheating tool because if a student copies and pastes code from the internet, you're going to see a large copy and paste instead of one letter at a time coming up on the screen, or if they copy and paste from another student's code. So for instance, you can see Raymond did a nice job kind of typing this out. You can see keystroke for keystroke, the thought process going on. If a student copied and pasted, you just see it magically appear in one, one frame. So that's a really great feature also too, playback feature. You can also see when files are created and deleted with that playback feature. So you can always open the files and see that too. So it holds all the information of the workspace. Lastly, what I want to showcase is that you can click on, if you're just like, you give the students a challenge. That tends to happen a lot with me. I'm kind of teaching a lesson. I've demoed a couple of things. I say, all right, I want everyone to create code that does X, whatever it may be. To monitor the students as they're kind of doing that, sometimes I get bored and I like to just walk around the classroom anyway. So you might walk around the classroom still, but to really get a good view and see what's going on the students' computer screens, you can simply click on student workspaces. This is only on the teacher side. And you can scroll through and check out every student's workspace. So notice I can see every student's workspace there. Simple code like this, pretty easy to see it as little blocks, but you can up top click on full screen and it kind of makes it full screen if students are working on bigger projects. It's a little easier to look at. I also like to click on the companion tab. I have multiple monitors in my classroom, so I can open up and kind of be working on one, and I can just monitor students on the other. So I can open the companion tab, where it'll just be a tab where it's all the student workspaces. So I can kind of see that on the left, on my monitor on the left, and demo to the students on my main monitor. So you can do that also. Maximum 18 students per scrollable area. If you have more than that, it just is a next page you're going to click. Any questions about the live classroom?
Where would your slides go, Joe? Is that in the presentation piece, presentation tab?
If I wanted to showcase slides, what I would have done, I'm just gonna, actually, let me bring up one thing, Michelle, and then I'm gonna showcase that. When you click this exit button on a live classroom, there are two options, finish and leave. Okay. If you click leave, so this is an important part of the live classroom. If you click leave, it's gonna leave that live classroom open for students to go in and continue to work and do stuff, which often that's what I want because my students that's like their notes kind of section for the lesson we did. However, if you need it to be locked out, that you don't want students to go back in there, maybe you use this live classroom for an assessment, which there are a number of teachers that I know do that. They'll do a timed kind of live assessment where they want to watch the students as they're doing it. You can click finished and it will kick all the students out. Doesn't mean you can't reopen up the live classroom. You can restart it and open it up and students can get back in. Their work will still be saved there and everything. But if you click finish, while you're not in that live classroom, students won't be able to interact, which is something to be aware of. I'm gonna click leave so you guys can still be in that. Looks like I got signed out somehow. All right, I'm gonna create a new live classroom. And this time I'm gonna turn on audio and video, Michelle. So if I turn on audio and video, actually what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna edit this. I'm gonna turn on streamlined code presentation also. And because I'm gonna share this link with you guys. So here's this other one with the audio and video enabled, just in case anyone wants to access that. I'm gonna start it up. And what you'll notice is there's another option up at the top if anybody wants to join this one and check it out. And that option is the conferencing. And so the conferencing allows you to have audio and video. I actually don't use that, so I just have it off. And sometimes the students one might automatically come on. I just go to this more menu. I go to the shush, and I just turn off mics and cameras, and it just shuts it off for the students. They can turn it back on. So just know that there's that, but it turns it off. And then I just use the share option to just share slides with the students. So let's see, I got another window open. Can I just share something like that? So share. Nothing interesting. But anyways, you can just share your slides, another tab, whatever you want. That way, and the students will see it. I'll just, you know what, I'll just share this other coding rooms tab that we'll be looking at in a little bit, sneak peek. So I can share that and notice you guys can see that. And so then you can have the slides. What I like to do is the slides, the presentation, and the students have their workspace open. They have those 3 panels and they can see everything all right inside of one browser tab. No more of that clicking back and forth in tabs all the time type of thing and all that other stuff. Any other questions? right then. We're just, we're open to any questions. I'll give everyone just a minute, just kind of think. And then I'm going to showcase the next version of Coding Room so you can get a little sneak peek of kind of what's to come in the coming months. All right, so what you see in front of you is the next version of Coding Rooms. Svetlana, did you have something you want to mention?
Yeah, so just very quickly, you didn't mention one of my favorite aspects of the live classroom, and that is I come from an all-girls school. Well, I taught in an all-girls school for 10 years. And one of the things that I found compared to, let's face it, boys, is that they were so much more hesitant to look like they don't get something. Right? And one of the greatest things here is, first of all, a student can raise their hand in the live classroom, and only I'm the one seeing it.
So if you happen to have the one open with the video,
I'm going there right now.
There's Svetlana raised their hand, and there it is.
And so now I can go and chat with the student using the live classroom chat or go directly to their workspace. And they don't feel like they're stupid. They don't look bad in front of their friends. It's just that, and everything gets solved very quickly. So that's been a great part for me. Anyway, big fan.
Oh, I agree.
I'm going to put my hand down now.
So you can very easily interact with the students, which is great. And you'll see there are many nice little features like that when it comes to managing the classroom and interacting with students. It's truly a collaborative platform and really good at just interacting with the students. Now, the next version of Coding Rooms, what they've been working on, this is just a little preview. If you are very interested, if you like what you see today in this, and hopefully in another month, you'll be able to use it as kind of the beta testers, kind of like early access, if you'd like. I know I will be, because it is really cool, some of the things. So here's the new version of Coding Rooms, fresh coat of paint, of course. Still create your courses. However, there will be no longer kind of assignments and live classrooms. That will all be one kind of thing. And the focus is that when you go and you create a new course, here, hopefully everything works. Just give this page a refresh. It has been sitting here. When you create a new course, everything is really about content pages and you creating content. And that content can be interacted with in real time for you to do all kinds of things with your students. So over here, I have my course. Here's my URL, and you'll be able to create content. Right now, we have it as a lesson, which is just a blank page, which I'll showcase in a minute. A coding assignment, which is just a page that's set up similar to the old Coding Rooms assignment experience, just so we have something that's similar if people like that style. And then modules is just a way to organize kind of your content. So I'm just going to create a module just first so you can see that. You can call it like unit 1, right? And then you kind of have a folder over here. And we can throw an actual lesson inside that folder. inside of module 1, accepting submissions for it. You can make it graded or not graded. There's going to be a lot of different options that you're going to see. And here is example lesson. You notice I just have a blank page, and that's because the idea of this new version of Coding Rooms is very much to give you an open canvas to create content the way you want it to look and the way you want it to feel. So what you'll be able to do is kind of have this blank page where you can type whatever you want. And you can insert all kinds of content. So notice it says type / to insert. And I'm given all these different blocks of things that I can add. So I can add nice big headings, I can add links, to-do lists, dividers, page breaks, tables, blocks of code, images. I really like these little notices and tips too, because it adds a nice like highlighted area. We add a hint or something like that for the students. So some really nice content design in here, as well as you just get to embed a Coding Rooms ID right into the page, wherever you want it to be. So now students, instead of it being like you have this one IDE and you have this one kind of set of information, you can now create a content page with as many IDEs as you want, with individual challenges and hints, and have a nice one-page flow. Or you'll notice there's a next and previous button at the bottom, and that of course will go with the flow of however you set up the modules over here. So students can kind of click next and move on to the next kind of lesson. And so you can break it down into as many smaller chunks as you want, or as many large pages as you want to have. And so now I just have some instructions. Students scroll, they get to an IDE where I can set up as the teacher, the template, the model solution, the test bench. I can run my tests. I can say how many points this is worth on the page. I can come down below here, click enter a couple of times, add some more stuff like a multiple choice question. Different options. What's awesome about this too is any of that styling we saw with that, with the slash and stuff like that, you can do that anywhere. You can do that in a multiple choice question. So now in a multiple choice question, I want to create a code block in here, let's say, to type out some code. You can do that. With code highlighting, let's highlight this for Python. All that good stuff. So really rich kind of multiple choice questions. We have short answer questions, Parsons problems, file uploads. So you'll have all these different things that you can have students kind of do really great stuff on these content pages. As well as you can just embed anything you want. You just click embed and you kind of provide it with a URL. You want to embed a Google Doc. You want to embed something I thought was cool is if you're familiar with things like Python Tutor. Python tutorial, which is kind of a code visualizer. So it will let us kind of, let's just create a variable. We can kind of line by line visually see the execution. So I can see in the computer's memory, it's 0. Gets a line 3, comes 1, comes 2. So you can step-by-step visualize code. I can get a permalink for this. And just go over to here and paste that URL. And that web page just embeds right over here. for some really great content for a student where now they have this visualizer that they can walk through. So you can embed, most web pages will embed there. Some websites block embedding and stuff like that, but some really great stuff, including I also use Microsoft's Make Code Arcade in my intro class. I'm actually going to use Coding Rooms when this launches for all of my content pages for that, because you can actually embed Microsoft Make Code Arcade projects into these web pages also for students to interact with the code and do that and other really great stuff. So Coding Rooms is going to evolve with this new version into kind of a computer science platform for any course you can just design on here. It has lots of great capabilities. Is there anything else? Mainly just other embeds. Of course, YouTube videos you can embed the things, and they have some options here, but I know the team is also debating getting rid of all these kind of ones here that just prompt you of some possibilities and just having it say embed website or something like that. But you can embed anything. Other code editors, if you wanted to, on a Coding Rooms page, it could be anything. Any questions about that? I'm super excited. Oh, and as a little preview, this isn't fully functional yet, so I can't show you, but what the idea will be is that after you design these, and let me go into, I kind of get too excited, you as the teacher can preview as a student, so you can't edit it, what the student would see. Once this IDE loads up, you'll see that. So notice I can't edit this now, but I can edit over here as the student. So notice that all that content that I typed is static where the student can't edit it. Over here, the student can edit, of course, the IDE. They have run, and they can reset to the template. The multiple choice question, they can select their answer and check their answer. I didn't select a correct answer, so. This little embed that I added, they can interact with, as well as an open button if they want to open it in a new tab. And I threw in a table at the end there, so that's there, the static content. But all this really nice content to design. The idea with Go Live will be that you will be able to click that, and you and your students can interact live with the page. So even if you highlight something, they can see what you highlight on your page. They can see where your cursor is on the page. They can see what you're doing on the page as in this kind of student view. And you can have that live interaction. And there's going to be lots of different experiences with it. The gradebooks also has some really nice things. So over here will be the gradebook. And you can click on a student's name and their page will show up for you to be able to assess. So you'll just see their version of the page with their edits on it. Auto grading with multiple choice questions, as well as the IDE, will just kind of automatically award the students those points, and you can manually award any points that you need to. And there's also working on some really cool automation that they want to do on certain things, like that I started to brainstorm. I don't think the team necessarily did, as they're not all educators, is you can start to do some differentiation where you could add some logic to the page so that for certain students, certain things show up. Or if a student doesn't get a certain question correct, you can have a certain challenge show up, but if they do get it correct, a different one shows up. All kinds of really cool things that you can make some really advanced content with. So we're super excited about this next version. It's going to be crazy and like nothing I've seen in other platforms, not just for coding, platforms in general, kind of learning platforms in general for content creation for teachers. So I'm free to answer any questions. I see we do have an individual that came in late. There will be a recording, so no worries about that. Be on the lookout for it. And you can always check and subscribe to the YouTube channel to see the recordings from Coding Rooms. So let me grab that quick. I'll grab the YouTube channel. Throw it in the chat. Anyone has any questions, don't be afraid to unmute. is the Coding Rooms YouTube channel. Please subscribe there and you'll get this video. Teachers do have excellent Zoom discipline. Great to hear from you, Michelle. I also did promise in the beginning, if anyone is interested in starting to do some unit testing, here is my website with Python and Java examples that you can start to use to kind of brainstorm some possibilities. And we do have some webinars recorded on the YouTube channel that can help you get started with that and check out some of those things.